Hey! Welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to react to epic Jesse Lee Peterson shuts down professional complainer. Anyways, subscribe, turn post notifications, smash that like button up, and let's get it, let's go.
We have a coon train.
Oh, I'm going to ask you about the coon train. Am I going to win this year?
I brought you an honorary coon train award.
Oh, cool.
Yes, I brought you an honorary coon train award.
And why do I get the honorary?
Because you lost to Sheriff Clark last time.
I sure did. I was disappointed.
Yes.
Am I going to win it for this year? So you believe that white supremacists exist. I want to know exactly what do you want from white people?
Well, I want for them to stop practicing white supremacy and replace the system of white supremacy with justice. I want them to redistribute the maldistributed resources that come with systematic white supremacy. I want them to punish.
You want reparations? Does that mean reparations?
You can call it whatever. I don't know.
But is that what you're saying for the understanding?
Redistributed resources that were maldistributed because blacks had their resources maldistributed. We were denied things, and it was codified by the government. Do you agree with that?
Meaning reparations, right?
Well, we were denied things that were codified by the government. The government
like
with jobs, housing, health, all types of not reparations, but all types of resources that were given to the dominant society. The dominant society is meaning white supremacists. They've been giving reparations for the last 200 or 300 years.
Amazing.
So, right.
And so you want reparations for white people exactly. You want them to stop being white supremacists.
Reparations from white people or the resources that were generated from free African labor. If it wasn't for free African labor, there would be no wealth in this country, Jesse. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I disagree.
Okay. Where did it come from? Where did the wealth of this country come from if it wasn't for free African labor?
The hard work
let me see.
The men and women, the good men and women of this country.
So the free African labor weren't good men and women?
Let me ask you this.
So the free African labor, those were not...
Well, see, okay, I'm going to make a point too, right? And this is me being, y'all know how I am. I don't give a fuck. I don't play sides on none of this shit. Black people played just as much a role as white people played in the society being built. But white people had a hand definitely in the society being built, as well as black people had a hand in the society being built. You got too many people on both sides trying to say, we did everything. No. We all contributed to this country being built the way it is, and we all should have some type of justification or some type of something given to all of us. This is why the argument, the rising tide raises all boats. I like that conversation because it's like, okay, if we just bring everybody up, then who cares? Then boom, we got something there. We just bring everybody up. Like, let's stop arguing for specific groups and let's help everybody to a degree. Because when I read about the people in Appalachia not having health care, it reminds me of the people in the ghetto that don't have health care. And I don't mind both sides getting what they need to get when they need to get done. But yes, black people definitely contributed to this society, just like whites contributed to the society. And everybody needs to stop discrediting everybody's views. So Jesse's going to discredit his view, and he's going to discredit Jesse's view. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Those were not good.
I want to ask you
deflecting means you don't believe what you said, Jesse.
I want to ask you another question.
Some good lemonade.
Means you don't believe what you just said, but I got you.
I grew up under the Jim Crow laws.
The white supremacy.
And while growing up, black Americans, including my family members and others, did better for themselves then than they do today, and they were not complaining about white supremacy.
Yes, they were, Jesse. You're telling a lie. Looking at me telling a lie. Yes, they were, Jesse. Jesse, they had Montgomery. You grew up in Montgomery. Jesse, they had the Montgomery bus boycott where you live, brother.
I didn't live in Montgomery.
You said you live near Montgomery, right? Right. They had a bus boycott, brother. Why was there was a bus boycott that led off the civil rights?
That was to change the law,
the white
so that blacks would be treated under the law
exactly
equally. But let me ask you.
So we agree.
But it was about all that other mess.
Right. But we agree. You actually agree with me. But go ahead, brother.
Let me ask you.
Go ahead, sir.
I grew up under Jim Crow law down in Alabama.
Right.
My family members and other blacks that we knew owned land. They took care of themselves. They learned to work hard. They were very creative. There were black universities that they would go to and come back as professionals. They had money. Matter of fact, one of my aunts, she and her husband got married, bought land.
Those black universities were funded by whites, by the way.
Bought Buku land.
But the black universities were funded by whites.
Is that a negative?
I'm just saying, you're making it seem like it was an independent thing. Unfortunately,
It was just like all universities now. They got some money from the government, and they put money in themselves.
Interesting. The black universities were funded by whites. That's actually pretty interesting theory. That's actually a pretty interesting fact to put out there as Tariq Nasheed. The black universities were funded by whites. That's actually pretty interesting to say out loud. I don't think you realize what he just said. That's kind of interesting when you're saying that it was predominated by white supremacy, and white supremacy was trying to shut everything else down. But there were also white supremacists that were investing in the black community. Like, that's really weird to say. You know, I don't know, let's keep going.
And they wanted many of them in the South so they could keep black people in the South so they couldn't go in the North and compete with the immigrants that were coming in. But that's neither here nor there. But go ahead.
Let me finish the point. Blacks they got married for the most part, had their children under the umbrella of marriage. The kids were decent kids where they didn't kill each other, and whites or blacks. They and those kids went on to do well in life. They were not having abortions. They were not having truckloads of children out of wedlock. Why were blacks more decent and love was right and did what's right with the laws being there against them than they are able to do today? And they were not victims. They didn't blame anyone for those circumstances.
They were decent back then, and more families were attacked back then, and they still were dominated by white supremacy, because that's why they had a civil rights movement back then, Jesse. There was a reason why you're talking about this utopia that black people were good, which we were, and we were still getting our brains beat out. That's why they had a civil rights movement, sir. That's why black people put on their church clothes and got dogs sicked on them and water hoses sicked on them, because they were still under the system of white supremacy.
Right, and that's the point Jesse's not trying to go into either. Like, see, I don't play sides. I don't. If we were decent humans back then, and we were treated like it considerably from his point, right? His point is that blacks were more decent back then than they are now, right? Because of all the things that he said, right? Within that being said, why were they sticking fire hoses on us? Why were there laws passed to discriminate on us? Why were we lynched? If we were good people back then, why were we treated like we weren't good people? Why were we treated like we're animals? Why were we treated like we weren't welcome into society if we were good people back then? Read between the lines of what both of them are saying. Like, you know what I mean?
As decent as they worked hard, they were educated, and they were still getting beat up by the white supremacists, Jesse. So we can't.
So if white people don't give you reparations, will you live a life of unhappiness, feeling like a victim, and blaming them the rest of your life if they don't give you reparations?
Well, the thing is, we have to do the best we can do, unfortunately, under a system of white supremacy until we learn how to produce justice. This is why victims of white supremacy have to get codes in order to replace the system of non-justice, which is white supremacy, with a system of justice. We just can't keep collaborating with white supremacy so a couple of us can get some butter biscuits and some crumbs off the table while everybody else is on their ass.
Do you know who Booker T. Washington was?
Absolutely.
And you know that he was born enslaved, right?
Yes, he was.
And you know that in spite of that, he didn't have that hatred in his heart.
He didn't.
And his family was sold, his brother died off, and all kinds of stuff.
We're talking about Booker T. Washington. I'm gonna keep that in mind.
But he didn't hate. And as a result of not hating, he became a primary figure in America, a good example for mankind. He founded Tuskegee Institute, and he too was hated by the race hustlers.
He was.
The so-called talented tent. You know, all those people.
Now look into this, y'all. Booker T. This is actually an interesting kind of theory. Like he's peeling out here. I like this conversation. Booker T. Washington. Look into W.B. Du Bois. Look into Booker T. Washington and W.B. Du Bois's conversation, and you'll see the Black America. You'll see Black America right there. Now, if you want to understand Black America, listen to Booker T. Washington and W.B. Du Bois's fight. Their fight is Martin and Malcolm. Their fight is Marcus Garvey and I forgot the guy's name. I'm forgetting his name. Frederick Douglass. Marcus Garvey and Frederick Douglass. The fight is right there. Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois. W.B. Du Bois said, there's no way we can be moved into society because they hate us, they don't want us a part of it, and we have to have a double consciousness when we exist amongst the society. Booker T. Washington was saying, as long as we keep going in the society, eventually they will see us as something that means that is a part of the society, and we'll all kind of come together on that. That battle, that duality is the whole black community in a whole. It's the existence across all the African diaspora. You can find it in all the cultures. Like that Booker T. Washington and W.B. Du Bois battle. W.B. Du Bois battle. But let's keep going. It's good. I like this conversation.
who were blaming white folks. Do you admire him?
I love Booker T. Washington.
And
you know
what did you love about him?
I love Booker T. Washington because he learned how to hustle white supremacists. He knew how to get out there and get all that money from those white supremacist philanthropists, and he would go to black people and say, cast down your buckets where you are. He gave a very famous speech that a lot of black people were upset about. They kind of thought he was cooning a little bit too, but secretly, you look at his autobiography, his diary, Booker T. Washington couldn't stand white supremacists, and he secretly funded black radical groups at the time, and this is why the federal government had to put agents on him, like R.R. Moten and all these people to kind of.
Who told you all that?
I read.
You made that. Who did you read that from?
I read. There's a lot of books about Booker T. Washington that you need to really read up on. There's a lot of he couldn't stand white supremacists, and he got that money, and he.
That's not true about him.
Oh, that is.
No, it is true. But here's the thing. Like I say, Tariq Nasheed is spinning this, right? He's spinning this in the W.B. Du Bois argument. There's a reason why W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington didn't get along. Booker T. Washington didn't like white supremacy, but he didn't have anything against white people. That's the key. Like, he didn't have anything against white people. He didn't like what white supremacy was doing. And he did fund radical black groups, quote unquote radical black groups. But he also funded groups that were talking about integration. Like, he was funding both. So yeah, like I don't like how he's spinning it to say like he just hated white people. Well, he didn't say. He said that he hated white supremacists. He did say that. And I don't like how Jesse's spinning to say, oh, he just completely loved white people. He had the same duality that W.B. Du Bois was saying existed. That's why their argument was extremely good. How do we exist in this society as black people when we're not welcome here? That was the argument. That was the conversation. And love it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Booker T. Washington was not into the white supremacy thing.
Oh, yes,
and
he was. He knew what the game was.
Booker T. talked about the black race hustlers back then
documented
as they are
he
today.
Was conning. He was hustling.
W.B. Du Bois and all those guys hated Booker T.
W.B. Du Bois. Hear him? He said it. W.B. Du Bois. Your boy Cam knows his shit, man. I know my shit. W.B. Du Bois. That's the #1 person that when you research it had the most objection to Booker T. Washington. Now hear this out, right? A lot of people who talk about the whole battle between black people and white people will bring up W.B. Du Bois along with I forgot his name, the guy who wrote The Wretched of the Earth, forgot his name, but basically they'll bring up W.B. Du Bois next to this guy who wrote The Wretched of the Earth, and you can probably find his name if you just look for it. Look for the book The Wretched of the Earth, or Black Skin, White Mask. You can find his name in that too. But Francis Fanon, okay, yeah. So they bring him up next to Francis Fanon. Now Francis Fanon was a lot more radical than W.B. Du Bois. Towards the end of W.B. Du Bois' life, he ended up moving to Haiti for a little bit, and then he moved to Ghana. Right, he completely wanted to escape anything that had to do with white Western society. But when Martin Luther King was coming up, keep in mind everything W.B. Du Bois said all his life. When Martin Luther King was coming up, W.B. Du Bois was one of his biggest supporters. This is the thing about black people I've been trying to get y'all to understand. I know y'all hate us in the comments. But just listen, like, we're such a caring group of people. Because even with everything W.B. Du Bois said, he still believed that there was some kind of way that we could move into the society, even though he moved away. He invested in the people that were trying to get us to integrate. Like, it's beautiful, man. Like, oh, I love it. Research this, y'all. Don't take my word.
Yes, he did. Just like you're hustling the white supremacists too. And that's why I like you. That's why I'm here. Usually people who are classified as coons, I don't mess with them. But I like you because I know you know how to hustle these white supremacists.
Stop the ad hominems.
Their talking points, and they pay you.
It's unfortunate.
And I tip my hat to that.
Do you believe in good and evil?
Of course.
You believe there's good and there's evil?
Of course.
And what do you believe?
You're good the way you hustle.
What do you believe about good and evil?
That's a very empty question. I don't even know what that means.
Okay.
What do I believe about good and evil?
Let me ask you this.
What do I believe about good and evil? What does that mean?
You said that you are a minister, right?
Yes, but
and do you represent God?
You just asking me random questions.
Oh, Tariq Nasheed is a minister. He be pimping the people. He pimped the people. It's something about people who tell me they're ministers that make me side-eye. I'm like, it's like, you know what I'm saying? You be pimping the people. And you know what? Tariq Nasheed actually was a pimp if you read his book. So he was a pimp before he became a minister. Then he became a social justice movement person. This is really actually a terrible person to be speaking for the community to a degree, but you can't judge people based on their past because Malcolm somewhat had a criminal history too. Quote unquote. All right? And Martin Luther King loved women. So nobody's perfect. I'm not saying that, but I do find it interesting that I wonder the question I would have for Tariq Nasheed would be, okay, so white supremacy blocks everybody from doing everything they need to do, right? So how did you get where you needed to go? And however you did it, you should actually coach some black people on how to do that. Like, I think in my mind, you know,
with no
teach us your ways.
Do you represent God?
Do I represent God?
Yeah.
Of course I represent God.
You represent God.
Yeah.
And so do you represent good or evil?
I represent good.
And so why do you act as though you don't know what good and evil is, and if you represent good?
But you're asking me what's the difference between good and evil, and that's kind of obvious. So
What's the difference?
Good means you practice justice. Evil means you practice non-justice. That's all it means.
Amazing.
And justice means you guarantee that nobody's mistreated, and you guarantee those who need the most constructive help get the most constructive help. That's the basic definition of justice and the basic definition of good.
Are you do you love all white people?
Just not the white supremacists. I love white people, but not white supremacists. I do not like white.
So you
supremacists.
don't love all white people?
Not the white supremacists.
Do you love all black people?
No. I don't like too many black people who collaborate with white supremacists.
So you don't like the Uncle Charles
some of
and
the
the sellouts?
like
You like the coons?
people could, and you asked me this before.
That's consistent.
Because Jesus loved the coons, and
Do you love the coons?
You're like one of the only coons I like.
Why you like me?
I like you because I know you're hustling.
If I was
If you
a
weren't
hustler, would
hustling,
you like me?
if
Would
you weren't
like me
hustling, like Sheriff Clark, I don't like him because he's a real coon. He's not like you. I think when Sheriff Clark looks in the mirror, he calls the police on himself because there's a Negro in the house. I'm like, you getting money. How can you dress like a player? I love you, brother.
I have to tell you, so long about Sheriff Clark. I know him. I mean, I don't even deserve to dust his shoes off. He's such a good man. But let me ask you,
we have a coon train.
Oh, I'm going to ask you about the coon train. Am I going to win this year?
I brought you an honorary coon train award.
Oh, cool.
Yes. I brought you an honorary coon train award.
And why do I get the honorary?
Because you lost to Sheriff Clark last time.
I sure did. I was disappointed.
Yes. Gotta get my
So, am I going to win it for this year?
Yes, hold on. I don't know because the argument.
It's just going to like a weird place, but we saw that from the beginning. But yeah, like that's all, man. Go research everything I just said. Research everything that has to do with everything. Like research is me search. I don't know why I heard that before, but that was the stupidest thing I ever heard. But anyways, though, y'all, great video. Love doing it with y'all. Peace.